A little while ago, I made a poll on who is stronger currently in the story, Eustass Kid post Wano or Big Mom's strongest Sweet Commander Charlotte Katakuri. And for the 80% who chose Kid, I salute you, because I think this fight really isn't debatable anymore unless Oda brings back Katakuri and shows off some new strength and feats. I don't even dislike Katakuri. I think he's one of the best well-written characters in the story and was a great rival and antagonist to Luffy back in Whole Cake Island, but a lot of people really just downplay Kid. I love the under DC jokes, don't get me wrong, but people act like because he lost to one of the strongest characters in the verse, he's just completely trash, when you could argue the same result would happen to 90% of the characters in the story. So I figured why not break this down piece by piece and really highlight how Kid versus Katakuri is not close. Instead of doing a simple one-to-one comparison of stats between the characters, I think for this video, I'd rather simply highlight how Cat's feats just don't cut it anymore in the grand hierarchy of One Piece. Simply put, Act 3 of Wano really raised the bar when it came to One Piece's scaling, and what we witnessed from Cat during Whole Cake Island isn't really that special compared to the higher levels of fighters in the story. Feel free to skip to the next section of the video if a lot of this is just common sense to you, but here I'm going to be as detailed as I can for reviewing Cat's feats just to show I'm being genuine with this matchup. In chapter 882, while fighting against base Luffy, Cat literally states that he isn't used to someone being able to dodge his attacks this much, and it's stressful for him. I'm not taking anything out of context, go reread this for yourself. This is a statement made by Cat himself. And I want to also mention this version of base Luffy isn't tapping into Future Sight yet. That doesn't occur until later in the fight, all the way in chapter 891 after Luffy returns from his break. And to everyone who says, well, Cat was simply holding back and he wasn't taking the fight seriously, in the very next chapter of 883, he literally says he won't underestimate Luffy. Cat is trying to take out base Luffy, and Luffy is able to keep up and endure just enough to where he isn't getting outright stomped. During 883 as well, Cat is determined to kill Luffy in order to keep his secret, so again, saying he's not taking the fight seriously is simply not true. This is objectively bad considering a normal kick from base Luffy caused him to cough up blood, and when Luffy turns into Bound Man, he's getting completely overpowered. Also, some people think that Cat has advanced armament haki, and that's not true as well. He just has stronger level of basic armament haki than Luffy at this point in time. Luffy literally states that his defenses can't hold up to Gear 4, which again is bad considering base Big Mom casually reacted to and blocked a Kong gun from Whole Cake Island Bound Man, but this same Luffy is sending Cat flying when he lands his shots. But hold on, because I know some of you are probably going to bring up that Cat saying he was off his game when Luffy landed those strikes and proceeded to dodge them again after regaining his composure. 100%, this is true, but again, base Luffy after returning from his break is literally reacting to Cat and taking his attacks. In 891, Cat himself comments saying that at this point, Luffy has been able to use Future Sight, but currently it is very infrequent. His words, not mine, meaning most of the time during this portion of the fight, he's still using basic observation haki to react to Cat. In 892, Cat is literally frustrated that weakened base Luffy keeps getting up and is scared that Luffy is going to reach his level of observation haki soon. Cat is also visibly tired and huffing at this point because he's literally not used to fighting someone like Luffy as stated earlier by himself. Then because of Flampei's numbing needle, Luffy gets hit by Cat's thrust, which he literally states not only to have been a fatal attack, but also that the numbing needle took away Luffy's focus and mobility. A literal statement that Luffy's reaction and mobility were nerfed. Considering Luffy in base has been narrowly dodging Cat strikes for the majority of this battle, base Luffy probably would have been able to dodge this fatal strike if it wasn't for Flampei. And with that, Cat stabs himself to make the fight more even. They are both tired and wheezing. They continue to go blow for blow until Snake Man finally unleashes, and I think it's here where we have to emphasize neither character is fresh. No one is actually going to try to argue that fatally injured Luffy that has been fighting for 12 hours straight and got nerfed with a needle that lowered his reaction time and mobility is comparable to himself while he's at 100%. And the same thing goes for Cat. The point of bringing all this up is that we clearly see Cat, while fresh, is struggling to hit base Luffy while Cat is using Future Sight numerous times. Yes, Cat is 100% able to fight against Whole Cake Island Bound Man, but not casually like his mother. Cat literally states he wasn't going to underestimate Luffy and is trying to kill him. Most of what I pointed out are direct statements from Katakuri himself. At the highest interpretation you could probably scale Cat to is Luffy before he started training for the raid in Onigashima. After this, Luffy is blatantly performing at a higher level than what we've seen from the Cat fight. Now let's move on and look at how Cat's feats compare against Kid. Now, after taking time to really dive into Cat's stats, I'm gonna be so real with you. If you legitimately think that Kid is incapable of reacting to Katakuri, even though base Whole Cake Island Luffy did multiple times without Future Sight, you're actually coping. In order to say Kid can't keep up with Katakuri, you'd have to literally ignore Kid fighting against Big Mom by himself. You heard me correctly, Kid did fight Big Mom temporarily alone. In 1013, Kid literally engages Big Mom alone and is in the middle of fighting her when Law shows up 2 chapters later in 1015. Most people agree that due to Big Mom's fight against base Kaido, they are at the very least relative in their base forms. You have to be disingenuous to say Kaido is taking it so easy on Big Mom, he's holding back on purpose and that's why she can keep up with him in base, despite Kaido literally saying he'd kill her if she ever stepped foot on Wano. You'd also have to argue Kaido is using less effort than what he did against Luffy in their first encounter, which isn't true because he was fighting against Big Mom for 3 days straight. Even if you want to say that she isn't on Kaido's level, she is still fast enough to react and block a fresh Whole Cake Island bound man effortlessly. Compared to the other top tiers and overall stats, yes, Big Mom is slower, but acting like she would get effortlessly blitzed by Cat is ridiculous when he's struggling to land hits against base Luffy. Also, a lot of people downplay a weakened Kid being able to react to the strongest homie in Big Mom's arsenal, Misery. That scene in the anime where Kid is getting the tar beat out of him by Misery never happened in the manga. In fact, Kid flat out dodges her attack. Misery is rampaging and literally only hits fodder. There isn't a single panel in the entire fight where Kid gets hit by Misery. Do y'all think Big Mom's most powerful homie, while she's amped by sacrificing a year of her lifespan via Soul Focus, is slower than Cat or base Luffy back in Whole Cake Island? A weakened base Luffy during Whole Cake Island is able to react to Katakuri with normal observation haki, and Big Mom in base is able to react to Bound Man, but Misery is somehow still slower than these two fighting each other. You see how the logic doesn't make any sense? You'd have to really disregard a large amount of canon material to say that Kid can't react to Katakuri. Now, as we move on, a common point I see plenty of people bring up is Katakuri's awakening, and yes, 100%, Cat can turn the surrounding area into mochi for him to manipulate, with the added bonus of his mochi being sticky on contact to restrain his opponents. And that's nice and all, but why are we acting like Kid can't lift his metal into the air? He did so in pre-time skip, he did it on the roof with the other supernova, and he's done so in the battle against Big Mom. You're telling me Kid can lift Big Mom in the air using repel, but wouldn't be able to pull himself out if he gets possibly covered in mochi using attract? Does that sound like it makes any sense to you? And speaking of attract and repel, there's literally nothing stopping Kid from taking Cat's spear mole. As we earlier discussed, the only advanced haki Cat has is observation. Cat's haki is not resisting having his weapon taken from him. Lily has 0 feats that would suggest this to be possible. Another thing Cat has 0 feats for is being able to realistically land any attacks that would actually bring Kid down. Luffy in base was able to endure a large amount of attacks from Katakuri, which don't scale to Big Mom. Buzzcut Mochi is Cat's strongest attack, and it too doesn't scale to Big Mom's attacks, such as her full Gora attack that Kid flat out tanked. There's nothing suggesting Buzzcut Mochi hits harder than Soul Focus Big Mom's Tenjin attack as well. You'd literally have to upscale Cat to high levels in order to make a dent. Even while Kid was nerfed because of Hawkins, Big Mom couldn't kill Kid after landing a direct strike at him. Kid literally tanked Ikoku Sovereignty as well. All these attacks scale above Katakuri blatantly. And finally, if we look at Kid's awakening a sign, Cat literally gets his movements restrained. A sign turning Katakuri into a magnet would be terrible because even if he tries to change the place he's stuck at into mochi, that doesn't negate the effects of Kid's fruit being used on him. He turned Big Mom into a magnet, why would changing the assigned location into mochi be any different? Big Mom couldn't negate the effects with her Conqueror's Haki, so how could you justify Katakuri's awakening being able to do so? In Road to Laughtale, it stated that Kid's awakening allows for the manipulation of individuals' magnetic fields and the surroundings. Now Cat in this position would be forced to use his awakening essentially just to move around, which would be a large energy drain. And Kid's attacks have enough potency in them that Big Mom herself literally needed to block the attack by lifting up an entire building connected to her back and using it as a shield. She, in her amped Soul Focus form, couldn't afford to take a direct hit from the attack. Again, I like Katakuri, but saying that Kid couldn't react to him or that Cat has enough firepower to realistically put Kid down is honestly just silly. You would need to outright ignore and downplay so many feats that are stacked against Katakuri. I'll go on record to say that I'll gladly make an updated round 2 to this video if Katakuri gets relevant feats in the future, but as of right now, Kid is beating Katakuri mid-diff in my opinion. Thank you for watching this video and subscribe for more if you like what you see. I hope you have a good day and please stay safe. Peace.